You are reviewing a large change. The agent says it can save time by spawning 3 subagents, one for tests, one for docs, and one for security. That sounds efficient. 10 minutes later, each worker returns a confident answer, but they used different assumptions. Now you have 3 reports and no single truth. That is the moment when delegation stops being speed and starts being coordination risk. This is lesson 7 in the Claude Code Production Agent course, Subagents and Delegation. Subscribe for the full Claude Code Production Agent course. In lesson 6, we learned that tools are the hands of the agent. Tools act, schemas govern, and evidence must return to the loop. That matters today because subagents multiply action. They can multiply evidence or they can multiply confusion. A subagent is a bounded worker. It should have a goal, enough context, allow tools, and a clear output contract. It is not a magical second brain. It is a controlled delegation unit. Parent agent still owns the judgment. The visible artifact for this lesson is the delegation decision map. There are 4 choices. Work in line when the task is small and context is shared. Spawn 1 subagent when the task is isolated and needs focus. Fan out when the tasks are independent and can be compared or merged. Do not delegate when the work depends on a shared fragile decision path. The parent-child contract is the most important design object. The parent should say what to do, what context matters, which tools are allowed, what format to return, and what evidence is required. If the child changes files, it should return paths. If it calls an API, it should return status and identifiers. If it makes a claim, it should return the reason. A useful mental model is a delegation board. There may be several workers, but there is one owner of the final board. The owner decides what work is independent, what assumptions are shared, and when results are ready to merge. Without that owner, delegation becomes a pile of parallel guesses. Take a code review example. One subagent can run the tests and summarize failures. Another can inspect security-sensitive changes. A third can read the documentation impact. That split works because the tasks are independent and each result can return evidence, commands run, files inspected, and specific risks found. Now take the bad version. 3 subagents all investigate the same architecture decision with different context. One assumes backwards compatibility matters most. One assumes speed matters most. One assumes security policy is fixed. They all sound confident. The parent now has to untangle assumptions that should have been stated before the work began. The parent-child contract prevents that drift. It should define the task boundary, the inputs, allowed tools, output format, and required evidence. If the child is only asked to give an opinion, the parent gets pros. If the child is asked to return evidence, paths, commands, and uncertainty, the parent gets something that can be verified. Before merging a sub-agent result, verify it. Read the changed paths, check the statuses, challenge claims that are not backed by evidence. If 2 workers conflict, do not average their confidence. Identify the assumption difference and resolve it in the parent context. There are also times not to delegate. Not spawn workers for a single fragile reasoning thread where every step depends on the previous one. Do not scatter sensitive context unnecessarily. Do not delegate when the local answer is faster than the coordination overhead. Delegation is a tool, not a reflex. A healthy delegation workflow has 5 steps. Plan the split. Spawn worker with a bounded contract. Monitor or wait for the result. Verify the evidence. Merge the conclusion into the main decision. The merge step is where many systems fail. Parallel work is not useful unless the parent can reconcile it. The common mistake is chaos fan out. The agent spawns too many workers because parallel sounds impressive. They duplicate work, drift in assumptions, and return summaries that cannot be verified. The final answer looks productive, but the evidence chain is weaker than before. Let us recap Lesson 7. Use subagents for isolation, parallel research, independent review, or specialist work. Give each worker a narrow contract. Require evidence. Verify before telling the user something is done. Keep final judgment with the parent. The lesson learned is this: delegation is leverage, not abdication. A production agent does not become safer because it has more workers. It becomes safer when every worker has a boundary, an output contract, and a verification path. Subscribe for the full Claude Code Production Agent course. The Claude Code book is linked as a companion resource in the description. In Lesson 8, we add runtime supervision with hooks, the checkpoints your agent actually obeys.